Hello everyone, this is Professor Alaric Nordia, and today we are going to be looking at Greek translation and specifically the subject of Jesus being racist. So the question that a lot of woke or progressive Christians, which is really a misnomer, uh, ask was Jesus racist? And the easy answer is no. We're going to have a look at the historical and uh, linguistic reasons for that. So let's have a look. First of all the Koine Greek text that I'm going to be taking here or using here is from the Textus Recepticus. So you should be able to find any good Byzantine manuscript that you can check the translation from. All right, so the first thing is if we are claiming to be Christian, we should be very careful when we're interpreting things because it says in 1 James 3 verse 1, be not many of you teachers, my brethren, knowing that we shall receive a heavier judgment. And then we have a warning in Revelation 22 verse 18, which says, I testify unto every man that heareth the words of the prophecy of this book, if any man shall add unto them, God shall add unto him the plagues which are written in this book. So, if we are devout or professing to be devout, we would be very careful to uphold this. Now, the reason I'm addressing this is because many so-called woke pastors who appear to not actually know Greek have been saying all sorts of nonsense, especially people like, what's his name? The Archbishop Jonathan Blake, I believe his name is, making up all sorts of nonsense that simply isn't there, and then losing a lot, or not a lot, all of the beauty of the text. Now, this supposed Archbishop, one of the things he was saying was that Christ is sinful, and these are just some of the verses that show the opposite to be true. But then again, he doesn't believe in the Bible, so go figure. Today we're going to have a look at Matthias, verse 15, and actually the account starts in earlier verses. We're going to be looking at from verse 24, really. So what's the background? Whenever we're doing translation, we want to know as much background as possible so that we can provide the closest possible translation for that event without changing any of the meaning in the text. We always want to be faithful to the original text. And one way we can do that is we definitely need to know as much of the history as possible and the customs of people at the time. That will increase the ability to make a very good translation. And then we also want to obviously try and keep as much of the original vocabulary. Direct translation is something I prefer, a more literal translation, as long as that doesn't interfere with the understanding. Okay, so you always have this kind of, how shall we say it, a balance between making it understandable in the target language, in our case here, mostly English that we're going to be looking at, and then not losing the original meaning from the text. So what's the background for this text that we're looking at in Matthew? Well, one thing we have to remember is customs between Jews and Gentiles at the time. Now, in this case, Jesus is traveling from his area where people of the same faith, Jews, are living, into the Syro-Phoenician area. And obviously people there have a very different system of belief, these Gentiles that live there. And as a result, uh, the Jews were to remain separate, a nation until the Messiah came. So Jews had misinterpreted some of the laws that said, that they should remain separate, and they'd used it as an excuse to be uh, traditionally very separated from other nations at the time. In a way, it was good because it protected them from false worship. In another way, it was not good because it didn't uh, really give them a very good view of people of other nations, which was not the point of the law. The law was to remain pure. Now, these misinterpretations had happened. So it was very rare or almost unheard of for a man to speak to a woman that he was not related to in public. In fact, the Pharisees would not speak to a woman they were not related to in public. And that was a typical view of rabbis at the time. Then also, definitely, they would have nothing to do with people of the nations, the Gentiles. And a Gentile woman, well, having any sort of interaction with a Gentile woman, and now we're talking about Gentiles that are not proselytes, so they have not converted to Judaism. That's a different matter. Um, they would not interact with them. They they would they would have no relation with them whatsoever. Uh, in as far as a personal level, maybe business or something they might, but not in day-to-day interaction. All right, so this is the background we have. Christ is in this area with his disciples, and this woman with a badly demonized daughter has come to him to ask for help. Now, the very fact that he is having any kind of communication with her is very interesting, and it shows he's a very compassionate person because he's going totally outside of the cultural norm of the day and breaking that norm completely. No rabbi would be talking to this woman at all. He wouldn't even be acknowledging she existed, basically. So let's have a look here. At the Greek text, it says, Hode apokoretheis apen ok apeste leiden e me. Oh, sorry, my light is in the way. E me eis bropata ta apololo ta oiko Israel. So she's saying, please help me. And he's like, well, I'm sorry, I was not sent to the nations, but to the lost sheep of Israel. So the one talking here, the one whore is talking about Christ. Then we go into the next verse. We can really see her attitude here. Okay. It says, E de elethosa. Okay. Then having come to him, this woman, the one, prosekune, she did obeisance to him, so she prostrated herself, basically, making her body low, bowing down. It says, sorry, my light is in the way again. It says auto lechosa, and then she was saying to him, how does she address him? This is a very interesting part that we're going to have a look here. She says, Kyrie, my Lord, boy, say, please help, boy, to me. Okay, so she's begging him to help her in a very respectful way. So now he's interacting with her already, right? So we're seeing a very beautiful interaction actually happening here. He's interacting with her. Not only is he interacting with her, she's showing very great respect to him in the way that she's speaking. Now, the next part is the part where people totally go off on a tangent and totally miss the beauty, the absolute greatness of this Greek text. Okay. Hode, then this one, talking about Christ, apokritheis, epein, and then having answered, this is what he said to her. Ok estin kalon. It is not a good thing. It is not fine. Um, my light keeps being in the way. I am sorry. I am but human. Let's move the light. Still in the way. Labain ton, to take the arton, bread. Ton hyknon, of the children. Kai balain, to throw it. Tois, to. And here is the very interesting word that we're going to look at. Kunairios. Kunairios. This word is a word that is translated as little dogs, but it has deeper meaning, all right? So at that time, under the Mosaic law, dogs were not clean animals. They were considered unclean under the Mosaic law. Um, and it would be very insulting to call someone just a dog, but this is a different word he's using, a little dogs. And this is actually the the word that for example, the the Gentiles at the time did keep dogs, and dogs were viewed by a lot of Gentiles at the time much how we would view our pet dogs today. We have an emotional connection with our dogs. You might get upset with someone calling you a dog still, but if someone called you a puppy, you would probably not feel the same way. So he was actually taking himself out of his Jewish mindset, out of his cultural mindset, okay, the Messiah, and lowering himself to one of these people of the nations, using language that she could understand and using language in an affectionate way. How do we know that this is the case? How do we know his tone of voice was very soft? Generally, when people are angry, they don't call someone a puppy. They tend to use stronger language. They also don't use language that that person is very affectionate towards or has a good feeling about. Okay, so he very kindly is saying, it's not right for me to take the bread of the children of Israel and give it to puppies, people of the nation. So he's playing down the unclean part, how someone from the Jewish nation would view a Gentile. Okay, completely out. He's actually considering her, being very considerate in his way of speaking so that she can understand. So why would he use this word? Well, he was giving her the chance to show her heart condition. Okay. He'd said this something that could still technically be found offensive by someone who is offended by everything. We know people these days as well that are offended by everything. So how does she answer him? Is she offended? Well, we can see not at all. Here, the woman we're talking about now, de pain, she said to him, Nai, Curie, yes, Lord. Kaicharta kunaria, okay, she's using the plural form here of little dogs, puppies, lap dogs, you know, the kind of dog that the people of the nations were familiar with. Esthie, apoton, what? Fikion, the crumbs. Ton, piton ton, the falling down. Apotis trapezes ton curion auton. This is very interesting. Once again, this is being lost in the English text. Now, a lot of the English text will say from the tables of the masters, which is correct. It is a correct way to translate. But she's literally using a higher form of the word that we understand as masters. She's using lords. So she is acknowledging the superior position of the Jews for salvation in the context of the conversation they're having. So this woman is extremely humble, and she is using honorific language, not only towards him, but also towards the Jewish nation. All right. This is very important. Okay. She's not offended at all. The opposite is true. She acknowledges it. Okay. Let's move on to the next part. What's Jesus' reaction? Well, tote apkurie theis, and having answered, or Esau's, epein aute, he said to her, O chunai, respectful way of talking here, O woman, mechale so e pistis. You have great faith. So he actually complimented her after she said these things, this interaction. Gene thiesto soy os theleis. Let it happen as you desire, as you want, as you're willing. Yeah. Kaiethe e techatir, the daughter of her, autis apotis opas ekenis. All right. So immediately from that hour when he was talking to her is the context, she was healed. So we see all this is lost when people are saying that Jesus was racist. Not at all. The Greek text is absolutely beautiful. The interaction between them is absolutely beautiful. This is the opposite of racism on both their parts. He's saying, look, I was sent to the people of Judea and Samaria, the vestiges of the nation of Israel. And she acknowledges that. And she acknowledges that they are first in line for salvation. And then what does he do? He says, you have amazing faith. Your daughter is healed. And he compliments her. A conversation that would never have happened between a rabbi and this woman. So if anyone ever tells you that Jesus was racist because of this text, they are very, very sorely mistaken.